Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Matt with the Hardcover Comic, and I'm about to do an overview for our July Patreon winner, Steven. He opted for the Preacher Omnibus. I just got it in, still shrink wrapped, so we're about to unwrap it, do an official overview on this, let you guys see what it's all about, and maybe you could win next month. If you do want to win, go to patreon.com/the hardcover comic. For every dollar you donate, you get an entry to win an omnibus just like this every single month. $1 gets you one entry, $5 gets you 5 entries, $10, etc. So for every dollar you donate, you get more entries. So join us, patreon.com/the hardcover comic, and you could be next month's winner.
All right, everybody. So here it is unwrapped, the 25th anniversary omnibus of Preacher. As you can see, they did away with the Vertigo like they've done in the past. Everything is now going to be DC Black Label, even though this was a Vertigo title when it was initially released. So if you get the Absolutes are going to say Vertigo, whereas the Omnibus, they've now changed it, is going to say DC Black Label. And they even did that with the Sandman reprints on the Absolutes for that as well. The Sandman, some of them will say Vertigo across the bottom, and then I have a couple others that I recently bought, and they say DC Black Label across the bottom. So they're not even uniform anymore either, but what are you going to do? So you still get the material in a beautiful collected edition. They just don't have the Vertigo label any longer. But here you go, kind of I really feel that it sticks as like I say it reminds me of the AMC TV show feel, right? I felt like I had joked around before saying it felt like AMC designed the book. Now, granted, this is all, covers and things by Glenn Fabry, so really AMC was using his work to create the feel for that they had on the show. I just felt that the color schemes and everything else that they used for the Omnibus was very reminiscent to that. That was the same color schemes and things used on the show. And Glenn Fabry has such amazing artwork and such amazing covers and things that I wish they would have done something a little bit different with the Omnibus, kind of like what they did with the Absolutes, I guess, is more what I was kind of hoping for, but this is ultimately what they did. Maybe they did it just so people feel familiar with it because, of the fact that people watch the Preacher show and maybe never read the book. But let's go ahead and get the dust jacket off here. And don't worry, the spine was stretched on this a few times after I unwrapped it, so I promise you it was done. But here we go. So here is the Omnibus with the dust jacket off. So as you can see, it says 25th Anniversary Omnibus Volume 1. Now this is going to be a 2-volume Omnibus set when it all is said and done. Volume 1 collects all of the first Absolute and about half of the second Absolute. So Volume 2 of this is going to collect the second half of the Absolute, and then all of the third volume of the Absolute. So it will be a 2-volume omnibus set when all is said and done. Here's the spine here. And then again, the back. And now, some people thought that this looked like, in some pictures, maybe it was leather. It's not. It is a complete graphic cover. There's really no frills or anything big about it. It is strictly, just, like I said, just an everyday graphic cover. Now, I did forget to mention, when we were looking at the back here, it does collect issues 1 through 33, Saint of Killers 1 through 4, as well as the Preacher Special, Cassidy, Blood and Whiskey. So, like I said before, all of the first Absolute, half of the second Absolute. But that is what it collects. It is $125 US, $163 Canadian, but obviously you can get it less expensive, like $72.50 on IST, if you are lucky enough to be able to purchase through them. So let's go ahead and open this up. So they do have like the end pages and things here, and just kind of a colored scheme, which is kind of nice. It looks like a dusty, starry night. Not bad there. It does have your title page here, which is nice. Credits page, and then they do have a nice table of contents. That is one thing that I do like about this, is that it has a nice table of contents. Also, it has an intro from Brian K. Vaughan that was written in May of this year, so that is going to be something that the Absolutes obviously would not have because it was just written a couple months ago. But it does have an intro by Brian K. Vaughan. And then you go in here to the beautiful Glenn Fabry covers again, and then the awesome Steve Dillon art throughout the book. So, kind of flipping through the book here, it doesn't really, there is a little bit of gutter loss, okay? It's not horrible. I've definitely seen a lot worse, but there is some gutter loss in this. The one nice thing about it is that they did kind of combat it with kind of putting white borders along here to kind of help combat the gutter loss, but there are still some pages that do get lost. Now, even though the spine's been stretched a few times, it does not want to stay open on its own until around page 300. Once you really get to about page 300, that is when it will finally want to start staying open on its own. Until that point, you really have to kind of, keep it open with your hands and things like that. It doesn't want to lay nice and flat yet. The other thing about this is that it is a sewn binding. I did confirm that by flipping through and looking at it. It is sewn. However, I will show you momentarily that the eye hole is pretty non-existent on this book, which some people that doesn't bother. Some people really like the nice large eye holes, but like I said, this one does not have the nice eye hole, which I will show you guys here in a moment. And then it has some letters pages and things, which is really cool. I do like that they add letters pages from back in the day on this. I do think that's really neat. A lot of people love reading the old letter pages from back in the day. I keep all the letter pages in my custom binds, so I do think that that's pretty cool. Then they have some script extras and things like that, and then they do have some art pieces from earlier on, some sketches and prototypes, and then they have a lot of Glenn Fabry work here, and then some pinup Steve Dillon art, things like that, which is cool. So it does have some nice extras in it. I will give it that. But other than that, there's really no big frills or anything with this. It's a pretty everyday, standard, straightforward omnibus. Let me show you guys the eye hole here. So we're kind of open right here in the middle of the book. And let me just hold that up to the camera here. As you can see, the eye hole, very small, almost non-existent, even though it is, in fact, a sewn binding. Maybe it'll get a little bit larger with multiple readings, who knows, but as it stands, it doesn't really develop much of an eye hole on its own. So, and like I said, so if you're really kind of torn and you're not sure which direction to go, do you go with Omnibus? Do you go with Absolutes? My personal opinion, Absolutes all the way. I've had the Absolutes in the past. This review is actually going to help me decide, do I buy the Omni or do I go with the Absolutes? And after seeing it, I personally am going to go with the Absolutes. Volume 1 is getting a little bit harder to find, but if it comes down to money and you just want to collect it, these are perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the Omnibus. However, Absolutes for me, because one, the whole series is already collected. Two, they're beautiful Absolutes, very reminiscent to the Sandman ones with the leather and the nice imprint and the dye imprints and everything. They're gorgeous, really well done Absolutes. I feel like they lay better. I think they read better. There's really no gutter loss in the Absolute. So for me, it's Absolutes all the way. However, if you're looking to save a little bit of money, or maybe you don't like the Absolute format, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. You can also collect them in 6 smaller hardcovers. The hardcovers are not oversized. They are standard hardcovers, but you can also collect them that way. You can also get them in the 6 trade paperbacks as well. So you have a variety of ways to really collect this amazing story by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. So if you've never read Preacher and you're just looking to collect, this is a great way to introduce yourself to it. It's a wonderful story, probably one of Garth Ennis' best, and maybe if you're just familiar with the show and you're wanting to dip your toe into the comic, you can certainly go with the Absolute, especially since if you're not real sure what you're going to think, or not the Absolute, I apologize, the Omnibus, especially if you're not real sure if you're going to enjoy the comic, read it digitally first, or at least buy something that's a little bit less expensive than the Absolutes, just because they are getting up there in price. But if you are a collector, you do know that you like the story, you do know that you want to collect it, you do know how you want to collect it, I'm going to have to say, go with the Absolute all the way. But there you have it. Steven, I'm going to get this mailed out to you this weekend, man. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you again. If anybody else wants to be in on next month's Patreon giveaway, go to patreon.com/thehardcovercomic and donate a minimum of $1 to be put into our entry for next month's drawing. Until then, the power is yours.